Good afternoon, everybody. Extremely excited today to organize this session and this panel around Agentic AI and how we can go beyond pilot with my esteemed guest. So should I start to introduce yourself? Vincent?
Yes.
Thomas? Tao? And Kelvin. It's extremely exciting and feel extremely privileged to have you with me during this panel. And I'm sure there are a lot of expectation. The room is full today, so let's start. I think maybe let's talk for a few minutes about SFF. This year is a very special year, our 10th anniversary. I think it's important to remind that the objective and the goal, the mission of Singapore Fintech Festival always been to build efficient, resilient, and inclusive global financial system. And I think it's important that while we are celebrating our 10th anniversary with the theme of shaping the next decade of growth, I think Agentic AI is typically one of the things and one of the topics that I hope, and we're going to discuss that today, will shape the next decade of growth. Now, before we jump into the conversation about Agentic AI and how to go beyond pilots, I'd like to ask one question to the audience, and we're going to have a quick poll. I think we're going to flash out a QR code or something on the screen to use with the app. The first question is, here we go. Have you been involved with Agentic AI initiative at your organization? Very curious to know yes or no. It's moving a lot.
Like 2/3 for yes so far. Oh, now only 50. Oh. Wow.
Latest seconds.
Let's wait for 100. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
And the hearts are for yes or hearts are for no?
Sorry?
The hearts are coming for yes or hearts are coming for no?
You can ask to the audience. Okay, I suggest that, 56, 57, okay. Good surprise. I was expecting to have a little bit more no.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump into the beyond going pilots and the commercial case. So I'm going to ask you a few questions now. If I'm a CEO, and I will be for 30 minutes in the shoes of a CEO, and I'm convinced by Agentic AI, let's give some good recipes, secret sauce for all these CEOs who are expecting to implement Agentic AI and going beyond the pilot. So maybe the first question for you, as you have experienced Agentic AI, can you give me some example of use case that you have maybe implemented in your organization? Kelvin, you want to start?
Yeah, we actually choose use cases from our real world daily operation, trying to solve the pain points. So Ant International is a leading payment company globally. So we're helping a lot of users and merchants to process payment. One of the pain points that we have in our merchant acquiring business like Anton is that most of the merchants, in order to accept a lot more customer, needs to connect with different payment methods, right? Credit card, e-wallets, bank transfer. Well, if you are working in Asia Pacific with diversity of different countries, you need to connect to hundreds of them. Each of them may take you months to complete the end-to-end process. So what we have done is introduced something called Anton Copilot, which use large language model and agents and help our merchants to connect to those payment method much faster and much smoothly. And after that, they can also use that to increase what we call payment successful rate. You want 100%, 100 people go to the payment checkout, probably want a higher number of people have successful rate. So the agentic technology indeed help us to go directly to the use case, go directly to the pain points, and helped us and helped our customers to improve the way they work.
So clearly reducing the friction for the merchant when proposing the different payment solution.
Indeed.
And focusing on their business, right? Versus the payment. Good. I think, Vincent, I should say. You have also some use cases,
Correct.
right? About terminals and OS?
Exactly. So Mistral AI is a frontier lab which now has an office in Singapore. And one of our biggest use cases for Agentic AI is about cybersecurity today. So the way we approach cybersecurity is detecting threats in your file systems and running an agent directly on your computer, accessible from your terminal to identify critical security threats on your machine or on your clusters. So we deliver that currently to different clients, and we call that Mistral Vibe. Mistral Vibe allows you to perform security check automatically using a harness on a very powerful LLM. So yeah, this is our main use case because a lot of customers, especially in finance, face very critical cybersecurity threats, obviously.
Yeah, makes total sense. Tomas?
I just maybe a little bit reflect on what you say, like if you are a CEO, what you would recommend and give like these examples. You know, with technically, like if you are CEO of the big company, then most likely you would go to some internal agent which can help your people, like a copilot, help the people to be more productive, you know, and for that we have implementation for the banks where some of them implemented like a credit analyst memo for the corporate bank when, you know, the RM normally comes from the customer and then spends like 2-3 days of preparing the document for the credit committee to approve the loan. So that can be done through the LLM and LLM model, like the agent, which just kind of is connected to all the bank systems and to the Reuters or whatever, and then get all the information and then start in a form of self-asking chatbot, creating the report in perspective, like normally the credit, like a CRO of the company would like to have it, like describe the kind of market, and then the management of the company, then products, then P&L, and then recommendation approve line of so much and so much. And then RM has to sign it, so technically for your company, nothing happens in a government perspective. So you as a CEO, you can remain easy and fine because the RM is the one to be punished if the report is not well in a shape or form when it's given to the credit committee. If you are the, let's say, the CEO of the company, which is, let's say, Challenger and digital bank or that size, then you might be more brave and even now go already on external agent talking to the customer directly. Can be like a voice agent, like a collections or sales. In my dream world, we don't have such customer, would be that you would do entire communication with the customer, with the agents, because then the customer gets the benefit the most. And that benefit is that, you know, then he doesn't have to re-explain the problem, as the agent is always the same, has always the same brain behind, and therefore always remembers. So if you would call, let's say, 1 year later, today, to any bank of the world, it's probably less probable that you will get the same operator like last year ago, less probable than that you win in any lottery in the world. Yeah, that's because like the turnover, so many operators. So then obviously you cannot refer, I was calling you a year ago with the very same problem. But with the agentic AI, you can.
You don't have the issue with...
Yeah, then immediately will kind of say the issue and say like, fine, last year you had a problem that your credit card didn't work in when you traveled to Portugal. Like you did yesterday. Yeah? So when your credit card didn't work in Portugal, so are you again in Portugal? Yes, I am. Okay, fine, we know what was the problem, we will fix it. So that can shorten the benefit, but that only works in a situation when the customer would have like all the communication with agent.
And I think we're going to go back to this point, is that this is your North Star.
Dream, this is my dream, yeah.
That's your dream, but we know there are some challenges still related to the technology.
So the start is like some collection or little sales agent, so it's a start, because that's the return on investment for such companies is the biggest. Because if you are increasing the sale, then obviously the return on investment is the best.
We've talked a few cases related to the enterprise side. You're more on the consumer side, so I'm also curious to know your view.
Yeah, I think it's like this, like a Manus here, we are building the general agent. And internally, like for us, we are a small startup. So we are using like agent every day. So I think there's a situation that being a startup, actually you will buy a lot of different SaaS services. And like there's a sales tool, marketing tool, financial tool, like we buy a lot of SaaS services. And I think before agentic systems like Manus before, you need some very professional people for different tools, because only the expert can operate that tool. But right now, because we have this general agent thing, being a CEO, you can just ask your agent to go to all these SaaS tool systems and to generate reports, generating insights, generating like doing all the doing all these analyze things just for you. I think this is something only being privileged for some specific people. But right now, you can just control the whole company. You can just use every tool. You can analyze every data in every platform. I think that's kind of like being some new opportunity here. Yeah.
So good. We have a few examples. Yeah. If I hear you, still a lot of things is amazing, but we know there are some challenges, right? And there are some barriers that needs to be improved. Let's maybe start with the technology side in terms of challenge, maybe specifically the data. So when you look at this agentic AI, and maybe AI in general, we talked about data and sometimes necessity to have a lot of data. Sometimes the data are siloed. So what is your view on the data? I think, Vincent, you have a point specifically about, no, this is not an issue.
So yes and no. I will have a contrarian point of view when it comes to the data layer. Like the current established norm is to first build your data layer or data mart, and then on to some AI or agentic project. But I'd like to challenge this view a little bit by saying that we might not have to wait for the full platform to be built in order to build something on top of it. Because some departments have very high quality data sets and very high expertise. And we can build on top of that directly without waiting for a long and painful integration to the entire data system. So my point is you can generate POC, or you can try a lot of things without even waiting for everything to be united. So you can go ahead and run a POC pretty easily, in my opinion.
Sounds super easy. I think, Kelvin, when we discussed a little bit the technology last time, you were referring about important layers that an organization needs to consider when it's about implementing agentic AI, right?
Yeah, we believe there's some low-hanging fruits that you can quickly adopt agents in your work to increase your productivities, to do the reporting things, analytic things. But we think overall, if you think as a CEO, if you think more structurally, there will need to be 3 layers in the future of IT structure. One layer is the data layer, and then is the agent layer. Last but not least is execution layer, especially for those who are in the payment or fintech space. The data layer now is not very easy for many big organizations to organize because data are fragmented, they're not structured. It's not easy to be digested by the large language model, or even what we have developed, something called large data model, which can analyze or even forecast the future of data. Based on that, you can do very solid and serious financial decisions. We think we need to spend or spare time on the most difficult, tough part of the overall structure, which is data layer. And of course, at the same time, do the agent layer, starting from low-hanging fruit, but gradually going to deeper of the execution. For example, what we did is in the foreign exchange space. So at International, every year we process hundreds of billions of foreign exchange transactions. So we need, firstly on the data layer, being able to accurately predict the future needs of currencies, either it's Singapore dollar, ringgit, Sing-H, Hong Kong dollar, or US dollar. Based on that, our agent be able to execute transactions with different counterparties, generate trading strategies. And then last layer is execution layer. I believe in the future will be all moved on blockchain, right? Because all the financial assets will be tokenized.
That's another panel. I'm joking.
And settle everything instantly. So that's why we think the data layer is very important. It's a starting point of everything.
Okay. To continue on the technology, we have a question from the audience, which is building a platform and solution to enable the development and deployment of agentic AI will take a lot of investment. Should we buy or build to go fast?
First of all, I don't think it will take a lot of investment if you just buy. Yeah, because depends what exactly you mean by some agentic AI solution. Because if you want to have a simple agent like a Copilot and you just buy it, it doesn't have so much of an investment, not much more than any other technological investment you might go with. So it's not. This question sounds almost the way that it's much bigger investment to just any other technological solution. Yeah, so
it's really depending on the use case.
Exactly. Yeah.
Vincent?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Most of the time it's a buy. If you don't have the proper team to do it yourself, the build will be way longer and way more expensive than the buy, honestly. Especially for a POC when you want to be very fast and have very fast answers on whether or not this thing is even possible and solve the use case.
Okay. So what I hear several times through conversation is we need to go step by step. We need to pick up the right use case, right? And going progressively to go to your North Stars and have your dream that the company is fully covered by a lot of agents. So going back to the use case, how do you think a CEO, if let's say I have my AI agenda and strategy for, let's say, the next 2 years, where should I prioritize and what are the use cases that I should choose in priority if I want to have a return on investment and something very efficient for my organization? Who wants to take it?
I mean, I don't want to speak only always start, but technically, I believe that you should start, if you don't have an AI at all, if you don't have any agent, then you should pretty much start with something internally, like a Copilot. And then, that Copilot is already the foundation. I mean, Copilot in perspective that any job, what you have in a company, then any person who is doing it can get some advices from all your manuals, materials, product programs, customer conditions, contracts. So you can get for any problem what he's solving, he can get a sophisticated advice from an agent. The moment he's getting advice and you tested that the advice works, then depending on the role, you might start automate some part of the work by letting agent to do it. If I will take an example, it's an operator who is selling insurance, first stage he can get advice from an agent what insurance should offer based on customer's question. Second stage, he can get exactly the script what he should say to the customer. And obviously in a third stage, the agent can directly respond to the customer. Each stage requires different level of governance changes and of course different level of approval process. But in general, step by step, what you said would mean you can every single role, you can agentize, whatever, my English is not so great, just step by letting certain level of decision of all or some part of the work still on a human and just decreasing that, boring work for the humans and let them do something more creative. Yeah.
I think, Vincent, you had a point which is quite similar than Thomas, right?
I couldn't agree more with you, Thomas. Definitely on the fact that this is an experimental technology, so you have to process step by step. And I like to quote common project we had with a customer, with BNP Paribas, that is here today, by the way, which has done an amazing job at developing an agentic pipeline that is ingesting unstructured client and customer data into their CRM. So basically, you have the agent that understands a very complex setup of documents, and it is able to analyze which document is which, and parse and refine like all the information that is useful to actually process and activate this account. And what I especially like with this use case in particular is the fact that they obviously already has something like that internally, but it was extremely manual, and it was very repetitive task that could be automated fairly easily with agents. And this proved to boost efficiency of all the operator by at least 10x. So I think these kind of use cases are very useful to gain credibility on the technology.
Good.
And now the answer from the giant. Yeah.
Okay. So
How did you choose your use cases?
What we have done is two approaches. The first approach is what you said. We built up a platform which enabled large language model and agentic technology. We allow different departments to use them because a lot of times to increase productivity, they have demand generated from the daily work. They want the reporting to be faster. They want some process to be faster. At the same time, we will focus our tech resource on specific pain points, the biggest pain points of the company. As I said, for bodies, treasury management, foreign exchange. It may be payments. It may be marketing. So you have to focus and go deep in that project to use all the customer data, the existing procedurals to change what do you do. Basically, two approach. Firstly, it's self-initiated by different department. You provide infrastructure for them. And then you focus on the key kind of pain points of that company. Normally, that project is revenue generating. Some others are more costly reduction.
Yeah. I think that from our perspective, we think it's like, because a lot of companies, founders, they all came to us, ask for advice, they just like this question. I think for most of them, they just want a very predictable answer about like, just tell me which use case we should adapt into our company, and then our business will grow. But we just don't think things will work like this way. Because just like maybe 50 years ago, we need to learn to drive. And 20 years ago, we need to learn how to operate the computer. Right now, with the frontier agentic technology, you still like need your organization to upgrade, to be ready to use the agentic AI. So right now, I think maybe this is not the moment to talk about the exact use case that will help your company, but just to introduce AI, introduce agents into your whole organization and ask people to use it every day. And then it will train your employees to let them have this mindset about how to copilot with the AI. That may be the most important thing right now, from our perspective.
So I think it's a point that we discussed, and I'd like to use your comment as a transition about human versus machine, and also the skill aspect of the skill set of our people in an organization.
Yeah.
So typically in that context, what do you propose to your client when you discuss about the use case and the introduction of Agentic AI in their organization?
Yeah, I think for the past 2 years, a lot of my friends who are industry leaders, founders, they all try to adapt AI into their organizations. But unfortunately, most of them failed. I talked to some of them, and I found out there's a big misconception is that they all want to replace their employees with AI. And today I think this is maybe the wrong mindset, because if you are thinking about replace human with AI, you are thinking from a risk control perspective, because there are many existing workflows are running by humans right now. So today's AI has many limitations. It can't replace every workflow. So if you are starting to think replace human with AI, you will think, okay, now this human, this job, this role has 3 existing workflows. AI can only replace 1. Then what it will be, right? I can't fire these people because AI can't do all of these jobs. Then you are thinking from the risk control perspective. But what we found maybe the better way is to think about enhance your employees with AI. Then you are thinking about what benefits we can get from AI. So I think this mindset shift is really important at this moment. Yeah.
Okay, good. I think, Thomas, you have a slightly different view on that topic.
I guess there should be obviously aim for really trying to use agent to decrease the necessity of the workforce. However, I cannot say I disagree strongly. Like that's obviously it is a process where you have to start with giving the people some tools which can get them more productive. But the moment they get more productive, then you can, use one person for something what before did two. I mean, I understand your point that
Yeah.
that the agentic AI cannot do that. Agent cannot do like one or two workforces, like some processes of that. But it doesn't mean that these two people did six processes. Then I'm able to take three from this guy and three for this guy. Then this three remaining here, I can give to one person who again handles six. So it should be the aim of, letting those, work assignment for people go and let them do something more creative or more productive. So there has to be the direction. But I agree with the general logic of saying, yes, it cannot be that I will just take one person and everything will be done with the AI because I want it. No, it should be like looking from perspective, if I will able to replace this type of processes, then I will identify those processes, and the remaining I will just club with the humans. Might be difficult to find human who can handle like two slightly different processes, but should not be impossible, yeah.
And what should we do to bring the right skills? Because it's one thing to say, okay, now we implement agentic AI, but what do we propose to our people in terms of training, making sure they're fully comfortable how to use it or implement it? Any specific team? I think, Kelvin, you were mentioning something about the organization itself.
Yeah, I think one thing needs to be done is to need to build some new workflows. It's like the risk management you mentioned.
Yeah.
So what we are now doing is to try to build some hybrid workflow, which part of the job can be done by agent, but there is still some control point, especially in the financial service. A lot of control still needs to be in place, that they will intervene when there is a necessary step that they need to participate, and then build a hybrid workflow, allow people to use agent at the same time, but still have clear role and responsibilities within the organization. And also, you also be able to face regulators and have to show your responsibilities to your customers in that way, at the same time of using AI.
Yeah. But the same as the system controls us, we should also try to change the system. So I agree with you again, but to be a bit of more provocative in this group of people, as we are kind of trying still keep humans, which do the kind of stuff for regulators, we should also together try to convince regulators to change the regulation, that some of the regulatory controls should be done by agent as well. Yeah, like one day, sooner or later, it will happen anyway, but it will not happen if we as an organization will not try to work together with the regulators on that shift.
You are right. So we now have agents who do the work and also who do the risk management. But even with that, we still think that, at least for the current stage, for the technology, there needs to be human intervention to do certain approvals, authorizations to ensure that this is.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm only saying that, for the future going forward, there should be some also regulatory changes to accept certain perspectives. Many times, if it's not happening, the cost is paid by the customer. Yeah, like if we are not using the agents to decreasing the cost, we cannot pass the benefit of that to the customers.
Yeah.
Good. Just conscious of time because we are extremely passionate conversation, right? I think we mentioned, so it's different things. I think I heard from you a lot of things. Progressive implementation, picking up some use cases, also hybrid, you mentioned work process, etc. So it's not really a drastic from 0 to 1. Now, I have a question on the cost. If I'm a CEO and look at my top and bottom line, what should I consider and what can I expect from agentic AI? I think, Thomas?
I mean, the cost obviously is better if you do the agentic AI somewhere in a top line. Yeah, because then the return on investment comes if you are able to enhance your sales, if you are enhance your your productivity in selling this product or kind of increasing your revenue. On the other hand, that's not only particularly like what you should look at, because again, regulator and the compliance, so technically you will end up more like on saving cost. But if you simply would be super brave CEO and you want to increase your ROI, then you have to go on for revenue. And revenue is only increasing the sales, and increasing the sale.
Okay, sales support.
When I was a kid, there was this Muppet story, like, you can find it on the YouTube, and that ends up sell. You should like just put sell in a YouTube.
With AI.
Yeah, no, this one is without AI, but I'm always saying that we should use the AI exactly as that Muppets in my old childhood was saying, sell. So that's sales.
Okay,
Is
thanks for the
key.
advice.
Yeah. Maybe I will jump in as a second.
Please go ahead.
I hold a slightly different view, especially for financial service. So in financial service, actually all return is a risk-weighted return. So in a way, when we get in AI, which can increase productivity, which lower the cost, at the same time, we need to consider whether this introduce new type of risk. We still need to calculate that, ensure that the fundamental of financial principles has not been violated, and we calculate the return, consider all the necessary risks also. So the risk-weighted return is something we should not forget and consider the overall.
Agree. On the other side, I would say there is a big difference between mistake made by the salesperson, human, and mistake made by the sales agent being AI agent. That mistake will be unintentional. Of course, it can make a mistake. Of course, it can hallucinate, but it's not in intention to mislead the customer, because AI is not paid for more sales, but humans are. So that there is the same level of risk in my eyes, like with the agents and the humans, and both have to be controlled. The only benefit of AI is it's not intentional. And I said it probably like already quite a few forums, but we as a humans, we have very big respect or acceptation for mistakes of people. But many of us, we have zero acceptation for mistake of AI. And that comes because all the computers, as we remember them, they've been deterministic. But we are moving from deterministic life to more, let's say, neural network life, and then obviously mistakes will come. Yeah, so sorry, I'm just diluting
Please.
your...
No, very, very interesting. Sorry, I have to be the gatekeeper on timing and ask you our last question. So if you think about in 3 or 5 years' time, where do you see we're going to be with agentic AI? What is your prediction? Kelvin, you want to try?
I don't know. Normally, we look at the penetration of our work. For example, on the data layer, we have used some large data model, penetrate, for example, last year's 40%, this year to a much higher percentage. I think the percentage of penetration of agentic work, entire workflow, will be greatly increased in the next 3 years.
And we didn't have a chance to talk about the KPI that should follow in terms of, it's typically is one of them. So today you are at, what is the percentage of your users?
Now in the large data model that we're using, the time series transformer is penetrated more than 50% of our entire money movement globally. But of course, on agentic ones, we're still building it. So now it's a relatively lower percentage. I would expect in 3 years it will be a lot more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vincent?
Sure. I think this is only the beginning of agents. Karpati said recently that this is not the year of agents, really. It's more of a decade of agents. So you were talking about this decade we're going to see even more growth. So this is pretty much aligned with the statement of Karpati from a technology standpoint, where we need to crack some problems that are not resolved yet. Like, for example, continual learning for agents. An agent in production doesn't learn anything. You have to carefully cater for the database and injection of data, all of that. But ideally, in the future, we like to have agents that actually learn from their mistake and from the feedback we gave them without having to re-engineer everything. So.
Good. Tao, the last word.
We have a very interesting metric internally, which we call the agentic hours per user per day. Because we don't measure how many hours users spend in our services, but we measure how many hours our agent work for the user. Right now, the most powerful user, the agentic hours per day is 2 hours. But we think there in next 3 to 5 years, there are going to be 2 major milestones. The first milestone is the average agentic hours past 8 hours, which means, that's like a normal people's working hour. And the second milestone will be
Nice.
24 hours, which means you will have an agent running 24 hours, 7 days a week just for you. And that will totally change today's labor market. Yeah, so that's our prediction. Yeah.
Thank you for all the prediction. Running out of time. Really sorry we didn't have opportunity to cover all the questions from the audience, but I'm sure they can approach you through the Singapore Fintech Festival app if they have any question and want to connect with you. Thank you very much for this very open question around agentic AI. I hope we'll be convening again in 10 years to discuss about where we are after this conversation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marion.